Hello and welcome to Game Dev Art. In this two-part video series, we're going to be going over making a vertical batch shooter. That's going to be going over creating the art, creating the animation, setting it up in Unity, and scripting it all to work. Let's get started. When I was coming up with concepts for the game, I sketched out a lot of the ideas I had. I had an idea of a bat that spit fireballs. Actually, it was a meatball at first, then I turned it into a bat. And there's these skeletons, and then there's a guy with a rocket pack. I knew I wanted it to be a game where the character went up and down and was restricted to that axis, that Y-axis, in terms of movement. And I wanted it to be Halloween themed, so the first idea I had was to make a castle that you had to defend. And the idea was coming together as I was creating it. So I got the castle idea from the bat. Pretty much the story was that you are protecting this vampire that's sleeping from the skeleton attack in this castle. And that's the whole story behind the game. That's why you're defending a castle. There's a vampire slumbering in there, and the vampire's familiar. You're trying to keep the vampire safe. And right here, I just grabbed a castle image offline. I wanted to have some reference because at first I was just drawing from memory. Then I was like, hold on, I don't really know all the parts I need on a castle. So I found a castle online and pretty much just started looking at it for just inspiration reference. And now I'm just kind of rendering it out. And I know the shadow keeps flickering on and off. I keep turning it on and off just to get a sense of if it feels round or not. And I just like to see the before and after repeatedly to reinforce, hey, this was a good idea. Now I'm thinking about colors. I know I wanted it to be Halloween themed, so I was thinking of going with purple and green as my primary colors in the scene, contrasting colors. Purple is going to be a lot of the background, and maybe the bat will be purple or something like that. And I wanted these windows to be green. And this is just my initial thoughts. I mean, you can always change it later, but that's what I was going with right now. Because I wanted to give it that like spooky feel, and green and purple does a good job of doing that. Feels really Halloween-y. Now I'm just testing out the background, thinking about how dark I want the background to be versus, so then I know how light to make the castle, because the castle is going to be in the foreground and I want it to pop, so I need to make sure the contrast levels between the background and the foreground are okay. And right now I'm kind of detailing the highlights of the brick. And to be honest, I'm probably doing this too early, but this is some of the fun parts. And whenever it feels too grindy, I'll start to do some of the parts that might not be time for it quite yet, but I can still get away with it because it's on a different layer, and I can always go back and delete it or edit it. And to be honest, that's really bringing the castle to life. So maybe it wasn't too early. Maybe that's just what I needed, because now that I added that. The lighting on the brick edges, I'm really starting to like it a lot more than I did. And then I go ahead and do the same thing with the window, that green light coming through. And then finally, I'm just gonna add a core shadow on this castle, and I'm also thinking of adding some purple highlights for the background, or rather purple highlights on the castle so it will blend in with the background. And honestly, after this, it's pretty much done. I will noodle with it and like blend it in a little bit, but for the most part it's done, and I'm gonna leave it at purple. And although I tried out some different layer styles, I just brought it back to the original. So I selected the skeleton head to be the enemy. I'm gonna call him Skelly, and right now I'm just going through the process of just getting some things set up, just the brush size, getting it the way I want it, and just outlining this sketch that I did on a piece of paper. I did it in a sketchbook earlier, and I just took a picture of it, brought it into Photoshop. Now I'm just getting the lines to where I want it to be, to what I would call the final quality. And the things I'm thinking about is I'm also trying to think ahead. You can see that I'm sketching out some clean lines because I'm going to just have a layer under it where I color. And I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna have lines and a color layer under it. So I'm gonna try to have a layered approach, and I'm also thinking if I want to animate this, I need the bottom jaw to be separate, so I have that on a different layer. And I'm also trying to color this, just trying to find the colors. I know it's gonna be a dark scene, a dark purplish scene, so I'm trying to find some colors that aren't going to blend in too much, aren't going to clash. I want it to pop out. That's why I'm going heavy with the highlights, because I want it to pop out from the dark background. And I have some green on there because the castle windows are green, and I'm just thinking it'd be cool if that, like, I could tie in the color harmony with the castle and the skull. It's not really going to be noticeable, but it's just something I'm trying to do to harmonize the colors. Right here, I'm just testing out the jaw. I just want a simple like biting animation while the skeleton is flying through the air, and it's just going to be a floating skeleton. And right now I'm just putting the finishing touches on it. I think I'm pretty good with where it's at. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it, but it turned out really well, even though I didn't spend that much time on it. And now I'm just putting some final touches, testing out the animation, and putting some rim lighting on. You can see it kind of blended in the background, so I added some purple rim lighting just so it will pop out, and it actually looks a lot cooler that way. Yeah, I'm happy with this. So now I'm just working on the back character. With this character, I also drew it on a sketchbook, and I'm just cutting out the picture so I can draw over it, try to create some final lines. So that's just what I'm doing. I'm outlining it, cutting it out, and this is similar to the bat I want at the final. I'm selecting some colors. I'm thinking about going with light purple just so it can harmonize with the rest of the scene. And I'm just creating the final line work right now. Also, I'm thinking about how it's gonna look in the animation. So right now I'm thinking, hey, I need this to animate. So I'm trying to figure out how I should draw this mouth so it can open similar to the skeleton. And I'm gonna break this up into separate layers. There will be a top part and a bottom part, and also each wing will have its own layer as well. You see right here, I'm just mapping out how each of these layers will look, throwing some color in there, and just proceeding to create this bat. I also want it to pop out from the background, so I'm kind of applying some heavy highlights in the colors. And now I'm really just focused on trying to get this, just the final colors, and trying to get this ready to animate. I kind of like to animate while I'm drawing it and painting it. So I got the lines done, and now I'm just really trying to get this mouth to work. The challenge is I have to make the mouth work while it's both open and closed, because I want this to be I want it to animate like I want it to spit a fireball. So when he opens his mouth, a fireball's gonna be coming out. And you see right here, I'm just experimenting with different colors, and you see when he closes his mouth, it really breaks the illusion. So I'm both opening and closing the mouth and adjusting, and then I don't really like how it looks right now, so I'm gonna adjust the back of the mouth and just add a tooth there, and just going through and really refining the teeth. I really want the teeth to show with this bat thing. And I decided against having color in his mouth because I wanted the fireball's gonna be orangish, so I wanted the color to kind of just look like it's coming from his mouth, but it didn't really work out. So now it's starting to come together. You can see here when I open and close the mouth, there's not too many areas that I have to work on, and just making the head bigger. Kind of looked like his forehead was kind of squished. And I'm almost done with this part, and then I'm going to move on to creating the wings, which the wings are kind of going to be a little bit more difficult because I want him to be flapping while he's flying. So I'm going to have to draw 3 separate frames and for the entire flap animation. And I'm rounding off this, almost done with the coloring of the body, and then I'm going to work on the wings. Alright, now that I've got the bat pretty much completed, I'm just working on the wings now. I got the wings from my sketch that I'm going to use as the base, and I've already got my color scheme picked out as well. I'm also thinking about the animation because I'm going to need an up flap and a down flap and probably a mid flap. So I'm thinking I'm going to need 3 frames. So I'm kind of just drawing out what I think the initial flap would be, kind of like when the wings are at their apex and they're about to beat down and grab some more air. And my color scheme is already established from the face, so I'm just applying that color scheme, and I want these wings to look translucent. I don't know if you've ever seen like thin bat wing skin, but you can see like the light. If there's bright light, you can kind of see it through the wing, that sort of subsurface scattering. I'm gonna try to get that in there, and I really like highlights, so I put them on places that probably don't need them, but I like how it looks, so I just throw them everywhere. And I got the wings looking pretty good. Now I'm just adjusting them a little to go with the body. And now I'm about to start thinking about the animation itself. Now I'm thinking about the path that top piece of the wing will take. I'm like, what is the flat path of this? What are the wings gonna look like when they're flapped downward? And that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. I'm trying to get a curvature, nice curvature, so you can feel the direction. You can feel that motion in the curvature of the wing. And I'm thinking 2 frames probably isn't enough. I think I need like a middle frame just to make it feel like a flap. Because if it's just 2 frames, it'll just go from top, bottom, which is okay. But I kind of want it to be a little more fluid. So now I'm just going to color in the wings. And again, I'm going to try to define the edges. And I'm going to try to add that translucency that I may not need, but I like it. And I'm making this it might look like I'm making it a little too bright, but I'm thinking about the dark background. It's going to be a dark purple background. I want the main character to stand out the most, so I'm really pushing that the brightness contrast. So the contrast of the background versus the wings. I want the wings to be very bright, pop off of the background, which is why with the skeleton I added that big glare on the front, because I want it to pop off pretty well for visibility for the player so they can see the skeleton against that dark background. And now I'm just filling in the mid flap, and I kind of like to work like this where I draw out each frame while I'm actually drawing the image. I know it might seem counterintuitive, it might seem like a slow way to animate, but it's definitely a fun way to animate. And I find it yields better results than if I try to use an animation program. Like, I know how to use Sprite, and I can use other 2D animation tools. I know Unity has a built-in 2D animation tool, but working it out like this in Photoshop and drawing each frame is a lot of fun to me, and it usually yields better results. Now I'm just adjusting the wings. I put together a short animation in the timeline of Photoshop just to test out what it's gonna look like. And as you can see, I'm playing it really fast just to get a feel for it. But I'll slow it down a lot in game. Now I'm just plotting out the background, and I want to make sure I just get some elements. I want it to feel spooky, so I'm really exploring these dead trees, and I want some more castles. I'm thinking I want some more larger structures back there, so I'm just penciling in a couple of towers to see what that would look like. And really all I'm doing is testing out the environment. That's why I'm just using quick lines. I'm just testing it out to see if it has the vibe I'm looking for, that feeling. I kind of want it to feel not like Halloween-y, kind of spooky a little bit, almost vampiric, because that is the main theme. It's like this vampire bat is familiar, protecting its master who's slumbering in that castle, and the Skeleton King is trying to pretty much destroy it. Now I'm drawing in these mountains, And I'm not spending a ton of time on the background, but I do want the background to look okay because ultimately, although it's full saturation and full brightness right now, I'm going to darken it quite a bit just so it will not overpower the foreground elements, because it is essentially going to be a background element. So I'm just painting it out, and I'm taking some time, but I'm not taking as much time as I would if it was going to be like what I'd call a hero element, because it's kind of just a background element right now. And I'm just trying to create some more depth with that structure in the background. I want it to feel like it's a kind of a big scene, and right now I'm just drawing this out and experimenting, drawing out the bricks. I want to add some detail to it. Not too much, but I do want some detail back there. And now that I got the castle, I just kind of copied castle and the tree. I just kind of copied them around just to make the scene feel more full. I'm going with that green color scheme, and you see now that I darkened the background. I think it looks a lot better. It really pulled the piece together. Originally, I was going with the purple background, but I changed my mind and changed it to green because it felt more like spooky. If it gives me that ectoplasmic feeling,